King Charles has had a lifetime to prepare for the throne, and in the past, he's talked about his preference for a slimmed-down version of the monarchy. David Common shows us what that just might look like.
The palace just flipped the line of succession on its head. In a sudden announcement, Buckingham Palace confirmed a major change that alters the future leadership of the British monarchy forever. This unexpected directive redraws the entire line of command, creating immediate panic among senior courtiers. Key family members have been stripped of their automatic fallback roles with zero warning. The rules of the British Crown have been completely rewritten today. The 10 o'clock registry. The senior registrar turned a heavy brass key inside the lock of the High Court probate cabinet at exactly 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. The office sits in the basement of the Royal Courts of Justice in London. He pulled a thick leather binder containing the master ledger of the British succession from the top shelf. He laid it flat on the desk, right next to a sealed red envelope that arrived from Buckingham Palace 20 minutes earlier. The registrar opened the envelope using a bone-handled letter knife. Inside was a formal instrument of amendment signed by King Charles. This document modifies the legal framework that governs the line of succession. The registrar used a black ink stamp to log the transaction under the civil service category for immediate execution. This sudden move marks a massive departure from traditional crown planning. Under the old system, the line of succession was completely rigid. It was protected by centuries of strict statutory law that could only be altered by a full vote in Parliament. This new amendment introduces a hidden administrative filter that redefines who is actually eligible to hold executive power during an institutional emergency. The immediate tension inside the palace gates started while the registrar was processing the paperwork in London. Princess Beatrice arrived at the rear entrance of Buckingham Palace in a silver sedan at 10:15. She was scheduled for a routine meeting with the directors of the royal estates. When she reached the guard box, the security barrier did not lift. The protection officer on duty stepped out of the cabin and requested her to roll down her window. He explained that his terminal showed her security pass had been deactivated at 9:45. He was under strict orders from the Lord Chamberlain's office to deny entry to all non-working family members until the morning's constitutional filings were fully logged. Princess Beatrice was turned away at the gate to maintain absolute administrative security. The palace legal team wanted zero internal interference while the succession amendment was moving through the High Court registry. Her pass was restored 2 hours later, but the message was completely clear. The boundaries between working royals and non-working royals had been physically reinforced. Let us look at the hard operational data behind this sudden decision. The current line of succession contains over 50 names. Many of the individuals in the top 20 are private citizens who have never performed a single public duty for the British state. They live normal lives, run private businesses, and hold residency under foreign legal jurisdictions. The king's ongoing medical treatments mean the family faces a real logistics problem. If a sudden emergency takes the king and Prince William offline at the same time, the state cannot rely on a backup ruler who lives thousands of miles away. The new amendment establishes an immediate physical presence requirement to bridge this gap. This structural shift caused immediate panic among the senior courtiers who manage the family's public relations. The head of the palace communications team called the private secretary on a secure line at 10:45. He pointed out that the official announcement would go live on the royal website at noon. He argued that changing the rules without a public warning would look like a desperate defensive maneuver to the international press. The private secretary dismissed the objection using the concrete facts of the royal prerogative. The king retains the absolute legal right to regulate the composition of his own executive deputies. The public funding provided by the state is tied directly to domestic public service. If an individual does not maintain a full-time residential base inside the country, they cannot expect to hold a backup position in the state governance pool. The registrar finished logging the amendment at 11 o'clock. The physical binder was returned to the secure High Court cabinet, and the digital files were sent over the secure network to the Privy Council office in Westminster. This is where the legal reality moves into a deeper political layer. The new instrument of amendment contains a specific statutory clause that targets more than just birth order rank. It modifies the underlying residency rules for the entire family tree. Who authorized the specific wording of this residency clause? Why did the palace feel the need to alter these ancient succession guidelines at this exact point in the year? The answer involves a confidential legal file that was pulled from the Windsor safe box just 48 hours before the registrar turned his brass key. The Privy Council desk, the Lord President of the Council, walked into the state boardroom at Westminster at exactly 11:15 on Tuesday morning. He unzipped a black nylon portfolio and placed a double-sided legal briefing paper on the long table. The Prime Minister sat at the center of the table, holding a glass of water. Two senior constitutional advisors from the Home Office sat to his right. They were reviewing a digital copy of the High Court registration receipt. The Lord President pointed to a specific paragraph at the top of page 2. The briefing paper confirmed the exact medical contingency that triggered the rapid timing of the announcement. The King's medical team had scheduled an extensive 6-week cellular therapy cycle to begin in early July. During this treatment window, the King's doctors required him to remain in an isolated environment. He must have zero physical exposure to large public crowds. Prince William was already scheduled to lead a 3-week diplomatic trade mission to Tokyo during that exact time frame. The palace needed an immediate, airtight legal backup system on the ground in London. They could not leave the executive signature power in a state of administrative limbo for nearly a month. The physical reality of this timeline caused immediate tension inside the boardroom. The Prime Minister noted that the Tokyo trade mission had been planned a year in advance by the Department for Business and Trade. Canceling the trip would damage British commercial interests in Asia, but leaving the country without a clear, resident backup ruler would violate standard national security protocols. The Lord President stuck strictly to the constitutional facts. He explained that the King's new instrument of amendment resolves the scheduling conflict without forcing William to cancel his flight. The decree sets up a localized rolling governance framework. It allows the Prime Minister to present urgent state papers to a designated resident deputy who holds full signing clearance under the royal prerogative. The senior advisor from the Home Office raised a sharp objection regarding the legality of the filter. He pointed out that the Regency Act explicitly names the next adults in the line of succession as automatic choices for this role. He argued that bypassing those names through an administrative amendment could trigger a formal challenge from constitutional lawyers. These lawyers represent the non-working branches of the family tree who live overseas. The Lord President countered the objection using the statutory facts of the case. The sovereign retains the absolute right to define the physical location requirements for anyone exercising delegated royal authority. The new amendment does not delete names from the birthright succession list permanently. Instead, it places a temporary operational suspension on anyone who cannot meet the basic domestic residence criteria. The advisors spent another 45 minutes reviewing the exact wording of the text. They verified that the legal framework was entirely solid. The Prime Minister signed the Cabinet Acknowledgement Form at exactly 12 o'clock. This logged the new guidelines into the Westminster State Registry. The political establishment had accepted the administrative shift without a single modification. This rapid agreement left the non-working royals completely powerless to intervene. The Cabinet Office had locked the data into the system before any family advisors could organize a formal protest. The strategy worked with total clinical efficiency. It secured the state machinery ahead of the King's upcoming medical isolation. The financial allocation for this localized backup council was settled during the final minutes of the session. The Treasury Director confirmed a transfer of £18,000 from the Civil Contingency Fund. This money will cover the physical transit and secure courier links between Westminster and the resident deputy's home office. It keeps the operational costs completely independent of the standard royal travel budgets. The Prime Minister closed his leather briefing folder at 12:30. He left the boardroom through the secure underground corridor that connects to Downing Street. He needed to brief his inner cabinet ministers before the official statement went live on the global networks. While the politicians concluded their meeting in London, a separate development occurred at the secure archive registry inside Windsor Castle. A courier from the High Court arrived carrying the physical master ledger box. The archivist on duty checked the security seals on the container before logging it into the central tracking system. The new succession guidelines contain a specific legal clause titled the Domicile and Allegiance Clause. This clause does more than just secure the home front during the king's upcoming therapy cycle. It establishes a permanent residency barrier that fundamentally changes the long-term future of the crown lands and hereditary titles. A new mystery emerged during the final phase of this Windsor archive update. The clerk noticed that the king's instrument of amendment carried an additional, unredacted signature code on the final appendix page. The code did not match any current civil service office in the United Kingdom. It belonged to a private estate management firm based in Edinburgh. The Edinburgh firm specializes in the management of sovereign land trusts across the Scottish Highlands. They have never held a role in the administrative tracking of the line of succession. Their presence on a constitutional decree indicates a massive hidden alignment of assets. Why did a private Scottish land management firm sign off on a constitutional succession decree? What specific family asset is the palace preparing to audit under the cover of this residency update? The answer involves a confidential safebox inventory that was pulled from the Windsor vault just 2 hours after the Westminster meeting concluded. The Windsor safebox. The senior archivist picked up a digital scan gun from the metal workbench inside the Windsor Castle underground vault at 2 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. He unlatched a heavy steel safe box marked with the number 88. He pulled out the original title deeds for the Balmoral estate trusts. He laid the papers next to the new succession decree. The archivist scanned the barcode at the bottom of the King's Instrument of Amendment. The digital terminal verified that the King's upcoming midsummer therapy cycle had triggered an immediate physical presence check for the entire estate system. The system automatically cross-referenced the active land registries with the updated residency lists. The new rules establish a permanent structural barrier for the non-working branch of the family. Under the old system, hereditary titles and land trust allocations were managed under entirely separate legal codes. A royal could live overseas indefinitely while still retaining their statutory position as a beneficiary of the crown's private estates. The new Domicile and Allegiance Clause changes that rule completely. The text requires any individual who stands in the top 10 line of succession to maintain an active, full-time domestic residence within the United Kingdom. If they fail to establish a verified physical home on British soil within a strict 12-month tracking window, their legal status as a trustee of the family lands enters a state of permanent suspension. The discovery of this residency clause caused immediate tension inside the Windsor registry room. A senior land auditor pointed out that Prince Harry's children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, were born in the United States. They have never held a primary physical address inside the borders of the United Kingdom. Under the literal terms of the new clause, their future rights to any family land allocations are completely frozen before they even reach adulthood. The auditor argued that this automatic freeze would spark a massive legal battle in the Scottish courts. The Balmoral estate operates under specific Scottish property statutes that differ significantly from English law. He claimed that the Sussex legal team would attempt to block the enforcement of the clause by arguing that the amendment discriminated against minors who have no choice over their geographical residence. The archivist stuck strictly to the property facts. He pulled out a copy of the Crown Lands Consolidation Act of 1994. This statute gives the reigning monarch absolute, non-reviewable authority to redefine the eligibility requirements for all private family land trusts. The private assets are not public property, and the civil courts have zero jurisdiction over the internal inheritance rules of the royal firm. The king's choice was legally unassailable. This structural wall creates an irreversible problem for the California household. They cannot use their international media prominence to bypass this property lock. The estate freeze stops them from claiming any future share of the family's private wealth engine. The financial pipeline from the Scottish lands has been fitted with a permanent gate that the king controls through the High Court registry. The archivist logged the changes into the central database terminal at 3:15. The physical documents were returned to Safebox 88, and the electronic files were forwarded to the Home Office headquarters in London. The new corporate layout was officially active within the Royal Estate Management System. The financial data inside the grey folder confirmed the massive scale of this transition. The Balmoral Land Trusts generate an annual rental yield of £350,000 from the local tenant properties. Under the updated ledger, this revenue will no longer be held in reserve for the wider family descendants. The palace treasurer redirected the entire sum to cover the increasing cost of the physical security barriers at Windsor and Sandringham. While the archivist finalized the files at Windsor, a separate problem emerged at the Home Office building on Marsham Street. The digital monitoring team noticed an unusual surge in secure file requests, originating from an unverified network gateway. Someone was attempting to download the full, unredacted appendix of the domicile and allegiance clause. This data search introduced the next mystery in the succession shakeup. The security log showed that the intruder was not trying to view the general public relations statements on the royal website. They were targeting a highly specific encrypted spreadsheet titled the Whitehall Directive. Why did a user attempt to force their way into the restricted Whitehall Directive file right after the land audit concluded? What specific border security detail is the palace preparing to enforce under the cover of this succession update? The answer involves a high-priority electronic signal that was intercepted by the Downing Street cyber team at midnight. The Whitehall Directive. A digital alert light flashed on the network terminal inside the Home Office cybersecurity room at midnight. The office sits in a restricted basement suite on Marsham Street in London. A senior systems defense operator immediately activated a localized tracing sequence. The monitor screen showed an unauthorized data scraper trying to force its way into the secure server that holds the government's royal protection files. The network team isolated the source of the data request within 4 minutes. The electronic signal did not originate from a local news bureau or a rogue hacker collective. The digital path mapped directly to a commercial proxy gateway located 15 minutes away from the Sussex estate in Montecito, California. A legal representative for the California household was trying to download the unredacted appendix of the domicile and allegiance clause before the system updated its encryption tokens. The discovery of the hack attempt triggered instant tension inside the Home Office. The Home Secretary called an extraordinary briefing with her senior intelligence directors at 8 o'clock on Wednesday morning. She laid out a printed copy of the new Whitehall Directive on the conference table. She explained that the King's succession changes had immediate security implications for the state borders. Buckingham Palace has officially instituted a mandatory physical residency rule for the top 10 individuals in the line of succession. This administrative filter requires anyone holding an active slot in the succession lineup to maintain a full-time residential base inside the borders of the United Kingdom. This change automatically removes the Duke of Sussex and his descendants from their automatic fallback roles during a state crisis. The Home Secretary pointed out a significant operational problem during the meeting. She noted that the Duke still holds his official rank as a Prince of the United Kingdom. Under the existing border protocols, anyone holding that rank is entitled to automatic, state-funded protection whenever they clear British immigration gates. If the palace changes his succession status without updating the immigration laws, the taxpayer would remain legally liable for his security costs during private visits. The director of the border force countered the objection using the concrete facts of the new directive. The document contains a specific statutory alignment clause written by the Home Office Legal Counsel. The clause states that state-funded diplomatic protection is tied exclusively to an individual's active presence within the domestic succession pool. Because the 12-month residency window has removed the Duke from the active pool, his automatic right to state-funded security is permanently canceled under the new law. The intelligence team spent another 45 minutes reviewing the exact wording of the text. They verified that the legal framework was entirely airtight. The Home Secretary signed the formal execution order at exactly 9 o'clock, logging the new guidelines into the Whitehall State Registry. The civil service machinery had accepted the changes without a single administrative delay. This definitive filing leaves the California legal team completely blocked. Their midnight scraping attempt failed to breach the main database. They cannot use the unredacted appendix to look for technical flaws in the immigration order. The Palace Tech team permanently blacklisted the California IP address block before the close of the business day. While the politicians finished their session in London, a separate development occurred at the secure registry safe box inside Kensington Palace. Prince William's private secretary received a high-priority delivery from the Treasury's accounting branch. The package contained the updated budget ledger for the upcoming financial quarter. This administrative delivery introduces our next mystery in the succession shakeup. The ledger showed that the funding streams for the royal family's international security contingency pool had been altered. A specific account, which previously held funds for the upkeep of properties used by visiting royals, was completely liquidated. The liquidation order was signed by the Chancellor of the Exchequer at 10:15. The text directed the Treasury team to audit the capital reserves of all sovereign-backed trusts tied to properties that have remained empty for more than 24 months. This dynamic ties the secure border directives of Whitehall straight to the cash ledger of the sovereign grant. The security directors realized that the loss of diplomatic status would affect more than just airport queues. It permanently alters how international intelligence agencies share tracking data regarding the California royals. Without a domestic succession slot, the Duke's household is classified as a private foreign entity, removing them from the high-priority diplomatic threat matrix managed by Scotland Yard. This data reclassification creates an immediate operational vacuum for the Sussex advisors. They can no longer request intelligence briefings from the British Embassy before traveling to international summits. The administrative link between the family's private security team and the state apparatus has been completely severed by the new border directive. The clerk at Kensington Palace finished cross-referencing the budget ledger at 11 o'clock. The updated files were moved to the central registry safe, and the electronic copies were encrypted using the new state protocols. The machinery of Whitehall had successfully locked down the borders, leaving the financial trustees to process the asset liquidation. The Sovereign Grant Ledger. A senior accountant from the National Audit Office walked through the side entrance of Marlborough House at 10 o'clock on Thursday morning. He carried a heavy canvas document pouch fitted with a brass padlock. He unzipped the pouch and pulled out a 3-inch thick ledger sheet bound in red tape. The document contained the complete financial audit for the Sovereign Grant International Contingency Pool. The accountant laid the paper flat on the center of the wooden conference table. The audit confirmed that the 12-month physical residency requirement had successfully triggered a liquidation order for the remaining asset allowances held for the Sussex line. The system automatically adjusted the core ledger entries to match the new succession protocol. The physical reality of this budget update caused immediate tension inside the royal household treasury. A senior finance trustee pointed out that a specific portion of the pool was tied to an old family covenant from 1999. This covenant provided an annual property maintenance allowance of £65,000 for any overseas travel conducted by the monarch's direct descendants. The trustee argued that freezing this fund immediately would trigger an open breach of trust dispute with the California estate executors. He suggested holding the money in a secondary escrow account until the next parliamentary budget review. He claimed that a sudden cut would look like an act of personal malice to the public. The National Audit Office accountant stuck strictly to the statutory facts. He pulled out a copy of the Civil List Act of 1952. The statute dictates that any allowance funded by the state automatically enters a state of absolute forfeiture if the beneficiary fails to log 12 consecutive months of active public service inside the United Kingdom. Parliament funds the public duties, but they do not guarantee private lifestyle maintenance for non-working relatives who reside overseas. The financial data inside the ledger confirmed the exact scale of the liquidation. The fund totaled £520,000. The money did not sit in a commercial checking account. It was held in short-term treasury bills managed by the Bank of England, The accountant typed a confirmation code into his data terminal, and the entire balance was transferred into the main operational security fund by midday. This absolute liquidation completely cuts off the remaining financial options for the California legal representatives. They can no longer look to the British taxpayer to subsidize their private security costs or property expenses during visits to London. The money is gone, and the legal ownership has reverted to the Central State Reserve under the strict terms of the Crown Estates Act. The administrative team did not stop with the central bond portfolio. They also reviewed the subsidiary asset lists for the local tenant properties surrounding the Windsor Home Park. Under the old system, the rental income from these specific cottage units was directed into a private maintenance fund for the wider family descendants. The new audit closed that channel completely, redirecting the revenue to pay for the upgraded cyber defense systems at Whitehall. While the accountants finalized the ledger entries at Marlborough House, the Palace Digital Security team monitored the final trace data from the Montecito network query. The network defense team confirmed that the California data scraper had been completely blocked before downloading the unredacted appendix of the residency order. The firewall had isolated the server within 40 seconds of the initial query spike. The data log showed that the lawyers had only managed to capture a public relations calendar detailing the upcoming state opening schedules in London. They found zero actionable financial data or security codes inside the intercepted files. The Palace press office quietly updated its security protocols to prevent a second download attempt from the same proxy gateway. The cybersecurity hub at Downing Street issued a formal report on the incident to the Home Secretary. The report proved that the security architecture of the sovereign ledger remained completely solid. The foreign legal firm could not use official treasury numbers to support their speculative filings. The legal wall around the family's assets was entirely unbreakable. With the digital threat contained, the focus returned to the physical ledger inside the Windsor archive room. The clerk of the wardrobe noted that the new 12-year rule had been officially stamped onto 32 separate property files. This permanent update ensures that no future administrator can reverse the financial liquidation without a direct royal warrant signed by the reigning monarch. But as the clerk locked Safebox 74, a final mystery emerged on the final page of the estate registry. The logbook showed that Prince William's personal private secretary had requested the physical delivery of the original 1937 Regency Act reference files. The request was marked with an immediate delivery deadline. The clerk looked at the signature on the order. It carried an executive tracking number that did not match the standard routine schedules of Kensington Palace. It was a direct, personal directive from the heir to the throne, authorized just minutes after the final bank transfer completed. Why did the Prince of Wales demand the historical reference files for the Regency Act right after the financial liquidation was completed? What specific constitutional step is the heir preparing to take during the upcoming weekend ceremonies? The answer involves a formal document that was loaded into a leather dispatch case at Kensington Palace just 1 hour later. The final execution. The heavy leather dispatch case landed on the center of the walnut conference table inside the Privy Council chamber at Buckingham Palace at exactly 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. Prince William unzipped the case and pulled out the original 1937 Regency Act reference files alongside a fresh 3-page instrument of execution. The document carried a gold-embossed seal from the Duchy of Lancaster legal office. King Charles sat at the head of the table, flanked by the Prime Minister and the Lord President of the Council. This formal gathering was an extraordinary session of the Privy Council, called with less than 12 hours of notice to the working members. The meeting was completely omitted from the public media schedules to ensure absolute operational security during the final phase of the constitutional transition. The Prime Minister picked up the instrument of execution and reviewed the final clauses. The text confirmed that the new succession guidelines and the residency protocol were now fully operational across every branch of the British state structure. The 12-month physical residency requirement had been formally integrated into the Privy Council's binding administrative guidelines. The integration turns the temporary active service filter into a permanent constitutional fixture. Prince Harry's name was officially deleted from the roster of active counselors of state. The legal mechanism does not just block his authority during the current king's illness, it permanently prevents his name from appearing on any future executive regency panels for the remainder of the current and subsequent reigns. The lock on the executive chamber was officially welded shut. The physical reality of this final signing caused a wave of sharp, clinical tension across the council room. The Lord President of the Council pointed out that the official announcement would go live on the government registry website at exactly noon. He noted that international news networks would instantly pick up on the deletion of the Duke's name from the state governance logs, likely triggering a frenzy of public speculation during the weekend news cycles. King Charles handled the point directly by referencing the hard statutory data. He noted that the Treasury had already completed the transfer of the £520,000 from the liquidated international contingency bills into the Central Operational Security Fund. The financial lines were entirely secure, and the palace possessed the absolute legal right to regulate its internal executive deputies. The public reaction would not alter the binding status of a signed royal warrant. The king picked up his fountain pen and signed his name to the 3 copies of the instrument of execution. The Prime Minister and the Lord President added their signatures as witnesses to the transaction. The entire signing process took less than 5 minutes. The historic order was officially completed, registered, and locked into the sovereign archives. The financial and legal isolation of the California household was now total. They can no longer look to the British legal system for a potential compromise. The new rules turn their royal status into a purely decorative title with 0 constitutional utility and 0 access to crown-backed capital assets. The structural purge planned by the king's advisors had been executed with absolute clinical efficiency. The meeting adjourned at 11 o'clock sharp. Prince William took the signed documents and walked down the long corridor toward the palace registry room. He met with the senior royal archivist, who was waiting with a biometric security container. William handed the paperwork over, and the archivist sealed the container using a multi-factor encryption lock. The container was immediately loaded into a secure vehicle to be transported back to the high security vaults at Windsor Castle. The physical trail was completely covered, and the digital files were hidden behind the Treasury's permanent firewall. The new corporate management model of the firm was officially the absolute law of the land. The shift extends beyond the current generation of non-working royals. By cementing these residency frameworks into the Privy Council guidelines, the palace has established a long-term precedent for the entire line of succession. Any future descendant who chooses to build a life outside the borders of the United Kingdom will automatically face the exact same administrative filter. It ensures that the governance of the British state remains exclusively in the hands of those who live and work under its legal jurisdiction. But as the vehicle left the palace courtyard, a final communication arrived at the private secretary's desk from the British Embassy in Washington. The embassy's diplomatic attaché reported that the Sussex representatives had quietly canceled their upcoming commercial media production meetings in New York. The data showed that the California team had finally accepted the reality of the residency decree. They realized that their access to the palace information pipeline and the underlying crown funds had been permanently severed. They were shifting their focus to private corporate investments inside the United States, effectively ending their remaining public links to the British state. The radical restructuring of the British monarchy concluded without a single delay on the floor of Parliament. King Charles used the absolute authority of the royal prerogative to slim down the executive line and protect the crown from long-term institutional weakness. The modern succession framework is locked into place, and the next generation of leadership has officially taken absolute control of the state machinery. The balance of power inside the House of Windsor has changed forever. King Charles made a historic choice by giving the line of succession a major administrative overhaul. He bypassed old traditions to protect the future of the British monarchy. This single move secures the crown, but it also creates a completely new dynamic for the family. The implementation of the strict 12-month physical residency threshold turns the governance of the crown into a modern, performance-based corporation. Non-working family members living overseas are completely locked out of the executive loop, and their remaining state-backed allowances have been permanently liquidated. The palace has made its final decision clear. The survival of the institution will always override personal family dynamics. By establishing this permanent legal wall, the king has ensured that the executive power remains entirely under the control of the resident working royals. The old guard's loose guidelines are officially gone, and the new guard holds the reins of the state machinery with absolute authority. The structural protection is complete, and the royal line has been insulated from external media and legal pressure for generations to come. What do you think about this major change to the royal succession plans? Did King Charles make the right decision by setting up this strict residency requirement to protect the crown? Was it fair to automatically freeze out his overseas descendants from their traditional fallback roles? Drop your detailed thoughts and theories in the comments section below. We want to know your take on how this new operational model will affect the long-term future of the House of Windsor. Make sure to hit the like button if you found this deep dive valuable, and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you never miss our exclusive insights into the hidden mechanics of the royal family. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.